Today's video is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury attorney law firm, ready to fight for you. When dealing with the consequence of injury, sometimes it can feel like you have no options and that receiving proper compensation just isn't plausible. But Morgan & Morgan is here to fight for you. Did you know that proper representation from a lawyer is said to gain on average 3 times more compensation than fighting a case on your own? With 800 attorneys in 49 different states, covering a major range of specialties and expertise, Morgan & Morgan will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. And the best part, Morgan & Morgan operates using a no-win, no-fee basis to put your mind at ease while you focus on getting justice. If you're interested in what you hear, check out Morgan & Morgan for yourself by clicking the link in the description of this video, or using your phone, you can dial #LAW. That's pound 529, or visit www.forthepeople.com to get started on receiving the compensation you deserve.
Maybe I shot him 10 times, 12 times. It could have been 15. It's the hatred I had for him. I wanted to beat him after it was empty. He just tried to kill me. He doesn't deserve anything. That's the law anyway.
September 14th, 1986, at around 8 p.m. Sitting in the driver's seat of a black Lincoln Town Car in the parking lot of the Golden Ox Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn, eating a Carvel ice cream cone. Gangster and psychopath Anthony Gaspipe Casso was there on business, waiting to receive a batch of stolen treasury bills from a friend, when out of nowhere 2 cars came fast approaching. The first car letting off a shotgun blast, but missing, and the second car letting off shots from a semi-automatic pistol, hitting Casso 6 times. Thinking quickly, Casso would dive to the passenger floorboard and pop the passenger door open, making a run for it. The shooters would keep on driving while Casso beelined it to a walk-in freezer in the basement of the restaurant. After a little while, feeling it was now safe, Casso would emerge from the basement, where he would then hitch a ride to the nearby Kings County Hospital on Utica Avenue.
I have 2 detectives that work the major squad team for the New York Police Department. They put him in the car. The kid thought they were taking him to the station house, but they took him to a garage. When they got him to the garage, they laid him on the floor. They tied his feet, his hands, cuffs, put him in the trunk of the car. After that, I killed the kid. Myself. Took him to a place that I had prearranged, somebody's house that I could use. I brought him in there, sat him down. I wanted to know why I was shot, and who told you, and who else was involved, and who told you, who gave you the orders to shoot me.
After you were finished with him, you killed him.
Right.
Was it just 1 shot to the head?
No, I didn't shoot him in the head. I didn't shoot him. I was in somebody's house. You make a mess. I shot him a couple of times. I didn't torture the kid. I didn't do anything like that. I shot him a couple of times. The kid died.
Well, what's a couple?
More than a couple. It's a couple. Really, I don't know the exact amount. Maybe I shot him 10 times, 12 times. Would have been 15.
Why?
That's the hatred I had for him. I wanted to beat him after it was empty. He just tried to kill me. He doesn't deserve anything. That's the law anyway.
That was your law.
There's the law of the Mafia.
At the hospital, Casso would be questioned by detectives, to which he would deny knowing anything about who had attempted to kill him, which was true, but it wouldn't have mattered even if he did know, because Casso had every intention of finding the shooters himself and delivering street justice, which was really bad news for Jimmy Hydell, a 26-year-old plumber's apprentice who was loosely associated with the Gambino family through his uncle, Mickey Boy Paradiso, who's also going to have to answer to Casso about his nephew's involvement. News of who the shooters were that were involved in the attempt on Casso's life would make its way back to Casso through one of his business partners and trusted associates, Burton Kaplan, who received the info from a friend named Frank Santoro Jr., who was the cousin of one of the infamous mob cops, Louis Eppolito, who would later on become one of Gaspipe's personal hitters and a major source of information. Frankie Santoro would bring Casso an official police file on everything they had in Hydell, as well as the other men said to be involved in the shooting, and even a file stating Angelo Ruggiero, a Gambino captain and Gotti crew member, was responsible for ordering the hit. It said upon learning that James Hydell was one of the shooters responsible for his hit attempt, he would put out word that he wanted Jimmy Hydell alive so he could squeeze info out of him on who ordered the hit. Casso was already familiar with Hydell, being that he had just gotten him a job with the union and made friends with them after a prior situation where Casso is said to have shot Hydell's Doberman Pinscher one afternoon outside the 19th Hole Social Club for being too aggressive towards one of the guys. It said he walked outside screwing a silencer onto a semi-auto handgun and shot the dog 2 times right in front of Hydell, who was said to have not said a word and just scooped up his dog and loaded him into his trunk while crying. Gaspipe's wishes would come to fruition one rainy Saturday on October 18, 1986, through the same mob cops that got him the information on the shooters. Jimmy Hydell left his mother's Staten Island home around 11 a.m. with his friend Bobby Baring, who was also one of the other shooters during the Casso hit attempt. He was taking him to what Hydell thought was going to be a sit-down over the Casso situation, where he believed his uncle was sitting down for him, but in reality, he was being turned in to pay for his mistake of not killing Casso during the hit. The mob cops would catch up with him at a laundromat on 15th Avenue and 86th Street, where they would tell Hydell he was being arrested, causing him to go easy and not put up a fight. From there, he would be driven to a garage off Nostrand Avenue and transferred to the trunk of a car being driven by Frankie Santoro Jr., who would then take him to the Toys R Us in Brooklyn and hand the key off to Casso, who was waiting nearby. Casso would then drive Hydell to his friend Jimmy Gallo's house in Mill Basin, Brooklyn, who was away for the week. This is where the story takes a little bit of a turn, because the story Casso gives in his book slightly varies from what he's telling the interviewer in the clip, because according to the book, he absolutely did torture the kid. It states that upon pulling him into his friend's garage, and after cutting off all of Hydell's clothes with the knife, it states Casso would rip him out of the trunk of the car by his hair, kicking and punching him, and immediately shoot him in both of his kneecaps. Then he would place the .22 with the silencer and put it to his shins and shoot both of his shins. Then make his way to the ankles. From there, he would place the gun to his left and right elbows, then the wrist and the shoulders, making sure to blow apart all of his joints before making his way to the muscles, with the intention of inflicting as much pain as possible. Shooting him first in the biceps, then the calves, then the thighs, and last but not least, he would take aim at his penis. Now that the kid was completely inoperable, Casso would leave him for a few hours before making his way back to ask Hydell who ordered him to shoot Casso, to which Hydell was quick to give up, stating that his uncle, Mickey Boy Paradiso, gave him the orders, who got the order from Angelo Ruggiero. Upon learning the hit was passed down from Angelo, Casso had his suspicions that their boss had to have given the order, and to prove that this is what was being told, he would send for someone to go get John Gotti to come hear Hydell say it himself. But it said Gotti outright refused to go to the safe house, but instead sent 2 of his trusted guys to appease Casso, who did show up and heard from Hydell's mouth who he said was involved. At one point during this brutal torture, Hydell would ask Casso if he could at least throw his body in the streets so his mother could at least collect the life insurance money, to which Casso gave his word. But when it was all said and done, Casso then dumped another 15 shots into him and would then pass the body off to the Gemini twins, Anthony Center and Joey Testa of the DeMayo crew, who would chop him up into pieces and ship him off to the Fountain Avenue dump for disposal. As for the other shooters who were involved, Casso would end up killing a Nicky Guido, which was the right name but the wrong guy, killing an innocent telephone repairman on Christmas Day. And upon hearing that Bobby Baring lived with his mother, Casso is said to have given him a pass.